Hello and welcome. In this lecture, we're going to be making our trigger component print relocking when it has got an empty space. And when we put the gargoyle in, it will unlock. And if I take it out again, it'll relock again. And the way we're going to do this is by pulling out our functionality for finding whether we have an acceptable actor into its own separate function. And we're going to learn about early returns within for loops to do that. Let's dive in. So this chunk of code that we've got in tick component is already starting to feel like a function to me. Essentially, it's a function that gets hold of the acceptable actor if we've got one. So we can go ahead to our trigger component.h and under the private section, create such a function. Now, what should its return type be? Well, I think it should be an A actor pointer, which can always be a null pointer if there is no acceptable actor. So we can then call this get acceptable actor, empty parentheses, we don't need to give it anything, and because it doesn't change our function, we can make it const. Let's go ahead and implement this over in the CPP file. We're going to unindent it, give it a uTrigger component : and replace its semicolon with braces. And then the code we want is basically the contents of tick component, except what we don't want to be doing is just logging that we've unlocked our actor here. What we want to do is, in the case where we've found this actor, we want to essentially be returning it. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. We could say at the start of our function that there is an A actor pointer, which is going to be the return actor, and by default we set this to null pointer. So there is no actor that we're going to return, but when we go through our for loop and we eventually find an actor that has the acceptable tag, then we can say, hey, the return actor should actually point to the actor pointer that we found here in our array. And then at the end of the for loop, after the for loop's finished, we've been through all the actors, we can go ahead and return the return actor variable, because that is the right type. That's okay, but it requires us to create a variable, and also it requires us to run through the entire for loop, even if we've already found an acceptable actor. So a better way of doing this is using an early return, and we've seen this sort of thing before in our grabber CPP, where we've done this: if the physics handles equals a null pointer, then we return, and the rest of the tick component doesn't need to run. We can use the same kind of efficiency within for loops too. So what I'm going to do is, if we've found the acceptable actor, we're just going to do a return actor. We're literally returning the pointer that we'd just found in this for loop, and the rest of the for loop doesn't have to run. However, if we drop through to the end of the for loop and we have not found anything, we've not returned anything, the return would stop the for loop, leave the function. But if we get to the end, we need to return something by default. This is where we can just return null pointer. So this is the default value. It means we've gone through the entire for loop. We've seen that there is no acceptable actor. None of the actors that we're overlapping are with the correct tag, so we return null pointer. So now that means I've got this redundant return actor variable, which I can go ahead and get rid of. And this reads really quite cleanly. We're going through, we're getting the overlapping actors, we are doing a for loop over them. If each actor, we test it, has it got the tag, the acceptable tag? If it does, we stop right there, we return that one. If none of them have it, we return a null pointer. So I'd like to challenge you to log if we find the actor. So call our function in your tick component, check if the pointer is null, and log in both cases, both whether we have an actor or if we don't, using an if and an else statement. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, welcome back. So let's go over to our tick components. What we're going to do is we're going to create a variable A actor pointer, which is going to be the actor, which is equal to get acceptable actor. Then we're going to do if actor not equal to null pointer. Then in the body of this, we're going to do a ulog unlocking. And then in the else, another ulog, this time relocking. because that's the behavior I want our trigger component and mover together to have, is that if you've got the gargoyle in there, it's going to unlock, it's going to be using the mover, and it's going to be relocking if we basically uncheck the checkbox on mover, if we remove the gargoyle. So let's compile that. So let's go ahead and hit play. You can see it's relocking because we don't have a gargoyle in there. Pick up the gargoyle and bring him over. And there you go. It's now unlocking. Take it out and it's relocking. Unlocking, relocking. Perfect. If I step inside, nothing happens. It's just relocking. So we've got successfully been able to find out whether we've got something in our trigger component or not. Now we just need to make it do something. And that's going to be the subject of the next lecture. I'll see you there.